So our topic today is, what was the actual title?
What are we feeding when we eat? What are we really feeding?
Mm. What are we feeding?
Well, that's everybody. Welcome to Abundance Portals.
Welcome, holding everyone.
Yes, goodness.
Wholeness, wholeness.
What are
How
we?
we doing?
Great.
Yeah,
Feeling good.
yeah. So we talking a lot about, you know, and it's not just what is it that we're feeding when we're eating, but also the attention, you know, um, what we consume as well that we also need to take into account. So, um, does anybody want to start or jump into the topic or discussion?
Sure, I will. We've had some prior discussions before about our eating habits, and I think I mentioned, lightly tapped on the fact that I'm realizing now that I find comfort in food because of there's still some things I need to address in my life or face, or whatever suppressed emotions I'm having about being molested. I need to really bring that forth, and I'm just holding. I guess it's a matter of me not wanting to face that. And I know I hear so many people talking about, like, so many families have been touched with the molestation, and I'm just going to keep it real. And so people suppress those emotions, and they have outlets like drug use, sex, sex addictions, all kind of addictions, including food. So mine have become a food addiction, and dealing with that, I still wanted to uphold a certain image that other people expected me to have. I was always the popular person and all of this, so I'm still trying to uphold this beauty image that people wanted me to have. So I then developed, along with the food addiction, not wanting to eat so much, I developed a diet pill addiction. So for me, now that I've had a lot of coming into the awakening, I had a lot of dreams. I had a lot of, like, aha moments, like, oh wow, that's why I was dealing with the food, and I like to eat so much. And then now, coming away from that, the diet pills and all of that, once your body is used to something and it changes, it starts to hold on to the weight, like whether it's a 30-day water fast or whatever type of fast you're on, your body gets used to something and thinks you're starving it, so it starts to hold on. So I'm dealing with the weight issue now. I'm learning how to manage it, but mine was definitely suppressed emotions from being molested as a child.
Wholeness, sister. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, my personal experience with this topic, it just touches everybody. It's touched everybody on this panel, but I've yet to find a woman that hasn't had some sort of attachment with food, over attachment with food, over subscription to food. And before we can even come into a space where we're going to discuss about intentional eating and, eating to nourish the body, right? You have to come into a level of healing in your relationship with the body and in your relationship with food, and what food even means to you, like what it actually even represents to you throughout your experience. For me, I was, as many are, a hugely emotional eater, and I tend to eat and not just overeat, because I've gone through phases of my life where it was just like binge eating, I mean, to the max. And so I've been through all sorts of stuff with it, but basically not just the overeating, but eating to fuel a certain emotion, eating just because I'm tired, you know, like I'll just notice, like, I'll have to stop myself in my tracks and go, wait a minute, like, where am I right now? What am I doing? And why am I eating this? And even just for some people to just even get to that point of saying, whoa, let me come into my awareness about what I'm actually inhaling right now. You know, it goes through phases, right? Because there's so many levels to this, just like everything, you know, there's so many levels, infinite levels to this, but really having to step inside that space within yourself where you even get to, you know, come to that space and say, what am I doing right now? What am I actually feeding within me right now? Is it my tiredness? You know, what is it, a trigger? Did I just trigger something in me? And I really started to kind of come into a practice with myself where, you know, at first for years, it was just like, okay, I'm overeating. Okay, I'm binge eating. Okay, this is what I'm doing to protect myself. You know, it was a lot of like, let me just pack on weight. So I'm kind of giving you an example of my relationship with food, which was incredibly toxic, but it was my armor in a sense. So it was really me not understanding how to cope with a lot of the external relationships that were very traumatic for me. And I didn't have a coping mechanism. So my coping mechanism was food, because it was comforting and it was always there and it was always available, and it tastes good. And if I need some sweetness in my life and I don't know how to produce that from within me, I do now, thank goodness. But if I don't know how to produce that from within me, I'm going to go grab something sweet. I'm going to go grab a cheesecake or a cookie or an oatmeal cookie. But you see, it's the weight, the mental, psychological weight that I'm actually attaching to that food that is, as I inhale it, is creating this weight, right? Because the weight doesn't start in the physical, as we know. It doesn't start in the physical, right? So it's like what I'm actually attaching as I'm consuming it that is creating the weight, right? That makes us essentially wait in our journey of ascension. And just even coming to the awareness of that and being able to heal through so many, you know, after so many years and after much practice and healing a lot of these wounds and really coming into more of myself and owning the relationship with my body, it looks completely different today, you know, because now I can have what I want to have and enjoy it, because really it is the spice of life. I'm not a person that really wants to, I want to be in balance, but I also want to give myself the joy of having something without it being attached to guilt or shame or just the idea of should anything. Because when I see the word should, I attach that to shame immediately. I immediately attach it to shame. So I really don't want, that's not for me. Now, this is my experience. This is my journey. That's not the kind of relationship that I want to develop with my body or with food. This is where I am at, you know, before I even get into more of the intentional eating, which is incorporated in my day-to-day. I do have intention in what I consume now, but I definitely don't deprive myself. So it kind of goes hand in hand with like not taking this all so seriously. You know, just like everything else, I really don't want to take it all too seriously, because then I'm not enjoying. And to me, you know, food is also to be enjoyed. I want to be able to travel and give myself, you know, part of that experience. And I'm a foodie, like, period. You know, I just really am. I kind of enjoy it, but it's so really the relationship, but all of this has changed and transformed because of the relationship that stems from within myself. you know, this is all changed because of how I feel about myself. This has had changed because of the work that I've done on myself and how I view myself now. So that's just a little bit about my journey and like where I am in relation to food and what I'm consuming. And it's an eternal practice. I'll say that much. Wholeness.
Wholeness.
Oh, that's sister. Thank you
I'll go
for
next.
that.
With regards to me and where I am and what I've been feeding over the last, for some time, or had been, is sugar addiction. And it's very long standing and started very early on. As a child, I used it because sugar made me feel good. And that was it. It made me feel good, so I ate it. But I would say that it started earlier than. I mean, I knew that there was this awareness that, you know, yeah, you really have a sweet tooth. It's really out of control. But it really started with my great grandmother, who cooked with sugar, and my grandmother, who cooked with sugar, and my mom, and then myself, and not really understanding the impact of it outside of it made the food taste good. You know, just a little pinch of sugar brings out the flavor is the mantra that, you know, perpetuated with us. Just brings out the flavor. And yeah, it did. But I became addicted to sugar. And for a long time, I remember, especially as a teenager, I was anorexic because that's all I did. I ate like a monster. Sugar, no food, just sugar. And I'm surprised to this day that I didn't get sick during that time because I really wasn't consuming anything nutritious. Fast forward to adulthood, it continued. And it continued until about maybe 3.5, 4 years ago. After really starting to take a quick look at what it was doing, and finally being diagnosed with the diagnosis of having diabetes, I decided that that wasn't for me, and I couldn't have it, and that I wouldn't have it, and I had to figure out how to not have it anymore. And as a result of that, I went on a journey to figure out, how can I not have to take the pill every day? How can I not end up missing limbs, going on dialysis, you know, and taking a pill for everything? I think my turning point with sugar was when and I really didn't even put it together until recently, that I couldn't climb the steps without being out of breath. And like every couple months, at least 3 times a year, I had bronchitis. Then I was diagnosed with asthma, and the list kept piling up. And I said, this has got to stop. And the only person that can really stop it is me, because I was told, oh, you know, the rest of your life, this is you. You will be taking these. And I wasn't going to do that. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. I think I started making my first steps with Dr. Kassar. Dr. Kassar talked about a water fast, and I had never even heard of a water fast and knew what it was. And I couldn't fathom being able to get through a couple days with just drinking water and nothing else. But I was getting desperate to find a solution for myself. So I said, let me try it. You know, these people have tried it, and, you know, things have gone well with them. So I started with that. Around the same time, I came into Secret Energy and started learning about cleansing and the effects of it, and really got into a routine and surprised myself quite a bit because at this point, with all the diagnoses, I also had amassed quite a bit of weight. And, that was contributing to being difficult for me to get around and having pain in the joints and all the other things that go along with mistreating yourself. But anyway, I straightened up my act. I shed 30 pounds. I stopped having bronchitis. I haven't had bronchitis probably in 2 years, 3 years. Though after coming back from Costa Rica in 2019, I had something ugly. It might have been this virus. But I no more blood pressure issues, no more huffing and puffing coming up the steps. In fact, I sprint on purpose because I can now. So I do it. And what I had not incorporated into my lifestyle, for the most part, was exercise. So I've started exercising, and with a combination of really changing the diet, getting into a cleansing routine, all of the diagnoses have gone away. And so I am very happy now to continue what I'm doing, because I know, and this is also what kind of turned me away from traditional medicine. They gave me no options. They forced me to find a solution for myself. So I had to, and I'm glad that now I can say that that A1C is normal as all of you, and I'm not challenged with any of those things anymore. And I know that because every now and then I do still have a dessert or two, but I know what I need to do to get in control of myself. And one of the things I think that led me into holding on so tight to sugar is that it made me feel good. And so I had to find something new that made me feel good. And that's when I discovered playing with crystals and discovered that, hey, I really like this. It was relaxing. It was a lot of the things that I was looking for. And it happened. It was strange how it all happened, but the bottom line is I know that's because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I know that for real. And so where I am now is healthier, much healthier than I was, and happy that I've taken the steps to do my own research and not listen to those who don't control me, and do what I thought was best. And that led me to where I need to be.
That's right. Wholeness. Amazing. That's inspiring, Sister Tony. I gotta tell you, that's really inspiring. And just to hear you loop it into, the truth of your experience is that, you don't, this is not about like depriving. It's like, let me align myself with something that brings me joy.
Yeah.
Let me align myself with something that brings me joy. And you aligned yourself with something that brings you joy and that brings you health, and where you can really stay in that center. And I just think that that's so beautiful. So I really applaud you.
I do too. And I just want to add that I love how you did say that you replaced your addiction to sugar with crystals, because we also have to realize that it's just not it's a chemical thing too. When we eat, we release dopamine, and dopamine is like, giving us that pleasure. And so the fact that you found something to replace the pleasure seeking sugar with, your crystals, I think that says a lot. And so I just wanted to say that. Bravo.
Agreed.
Friend. Yeah.
Agreed.
I'll go and to continue what Crystal was saying. I think that we sort of like punish ourselves because we're thinking that, we don't have the willpower, and that's why we're not, we're eating all of this bad food, quote unquote bad food,
excuse me for saying the word bad. However, you know, sometimes it is a chemical. You know, for me, my main addiction was actually the starch. Yeah, you know, and
Mhm.
the starch, I mean, years, like 20 years, just like I would, yes, go to the store, buy Argo starch and eat that. And I would have boxes, not just like one or two, and I would consume like one or two a day sometimes, you know, depending on how bad it was. That was like my main addiction. And so like, so it's not that I was eating healthy, but I wasn't eating like a lot to, you know, gain so much weight. And you know, so it's so funny. Like people see me now, and they're like, "Oh, you know, you need to lose weight," and I'm like, I laugh because I mean, I've lost my weight and then some. Like you know, at my highest, I was over 300 pounds. So you know, my weight story is like my life story. Like there hasn't been a diet that I haven't tried. The good ones, the bad ones, the in between ones. You know, I remember trying to be bulimic. At one point, I did the Epitac syrup because I happened to be watching this video where they were teaching about not how dangerous it was to use Epitac syrup. I was like, ooh, great idea. Let me use Epitac, you know. Um, so in terms of like my addiction to starch, what I discovered, you know, once I was in late in my 20s and I had other health issues, and I had gone to a blood doctor, and I discovered that it had literally something to do with my physiology, and that you know, like a lot of people in the world, you know, I'm anemic, and that's because there's something that happens in my blood. So therefore, of course, I crave starch because it's giving me something that I'm not getting in the food. And so I had, you know, some people like they crave the ice, you know, when they have this issue. So I had to, so it was like, oh, it wasn't just like, oh, I was, you know, I wasn't strong enough to control this thing. This was like a real health issue that, again, millions of people in the world suffer from, and they have to replace, because the food doesn't have the minerals and the nutrients, they have to replace it somehow. And starch did it for me, even though like starch will give you a lot of other stuff, you know, and that's what happened to me. And then that coupled with all of the emotional things, you know, including like, abandonment issue with my mother, molestation issues from when I was a young child. And then so body issues where, you know, I remember, you know, being a teenager and basically running from the mirrors. Like I literally did not look at myself. You know, you just bypass mirrors. All of a sudden, like a few minutes, just like, you know, getting ready. And then I would ask somebody else, how do I look? You know, I never really stopped and look at myself to say how I look, to see how I look and know for myself. So, so food was like a combination of like, you know, things that I needed, things that I was addicted to, you know what I mean? And one of my biggest thing that I look at now is this fulfillment. Like, you know, how do you feel when your stomach is full? And that sensation, that warmth, that feeling like somebody's hugging you, you know, is this thing that, you know, to me that I craved most of my life. And, you know, like everybody else, you know, yes, you know, now we're here and we've, you know, gone through the journey. And however, when I was going through it, you know, I'm like, wow. I mean, I remember at my highest weight, I had sleep apnea, high blood pressure, I was overweight, uh, and all sorts of like was like pre-diabetic, um, and you know had blood issues, and then you know I remember literally each time you know like, even passing out and stuff, and when I finally was diagnosed with you know the health issues and knew what it was, you know. Um, I remember for the sleep apnea, I went to do a test, like when you do the test for the sleep. And basically I left the hospital because you do it at the hospital. I left the hospital at 8 in the morning, around 8:30 ish. And then I went home and I was like, oh, you know, I don't know what I was doing, but like before 11 o'clock, my doctor called. You must rush back to the hospital. You like died 3 times last night. You know what I mean? Like, so according to the test, they had like no reading at several time points during the night. And it's like that serious that I must come in and be retested with a higher, um, more machines and then be put, you know, like get the machines to breathe at night. Otherwise, there wasn't enough oxygen in the brain to, you know, and again, I was 300 pounds with like, you know, snoring like crazy. And you were thinking, oh, I'm snoring. Yeah. And people would make fun of that, not realizing, you know, you had serious health issues. And that was what, you know, my weight had done. And so I ended up having weight loss surgery. And it was funny, like when I had weight loss surgery, you know, I had documented that because it was a great journey. And, you know, your journey starts at different points. And I remember getting head hunger. And head hunger was like a real thing where now you understand, like, hey, there is no stomach to be hungry. What is this feeling? What is this sensation that I'm like gnawing? It's like it was this feeling of like I need it so bad, and oh my God, like I feel this sensation of wanting to food, but again, where am I going to put it? I don't have a stomach. And definitely, like, you know, and I spent weeks, maybe even close to months like this, you know, because I remember, like, you know, how they tell you the stages. And then you know, I passed stage 1 at the designated time. And then when I got to stage 2, I couldn't hump over the stage 3. So I spent like almost a year at stage 2. And, you know, so in terms of like the head hunger and having to deal with it for so long, and then when you sort of realizing, oh, it's my emotion that I have to deal with. It wasn't, that was where you were stuck. This feeling of wanting, of needing, of like not knowing where to put it, and nothing can satisfy it, you know, and that it wasn't about the food. And now I really had to deal with whatever emotional problems and things that wasn't fulfilling me, you know, what wasn't making me feel full. Because when you have the surgery, like any little thing makes you feel full. So how come you want more? It's like annoying, you know, like, oh my God, I need, I have to have it. And it's never enough, that sensation. And it was all here. It was all here. And I couldn't, and it took me, I mean, even years to deal with all of that, because now I had to, you know, it was, I think even after I dealt with the mother issues and, you know, with the psychologist, it wasn't even until I got into the awakening part when it was like, oh, now you have to deal with the wish-be issues. Like, who are you? You know, and what didn't you, you know, there were times when I had not, you know, I got mad at my little self, you know what I mean, for not being strong enough for whatever reason. You know, the younger me that wasn't there to protect me, you know, whatever part of me. You know, that's why, you know, you sort of realize that you have the different cells that you need to take care of. And that's the fulfillment that's missing, you know. So once I started, you know, dealing with that, oh, this is this aspect of me that I need to feed. This is that aspect of me I need to feed. Um, then really started really doing the shadow work, really doing it. So, and it continues, you know, to me, like food is not, you know, things, because like if you see me, like I don't eat because again, I had the surgery, I don't eat. I can't eat in one sitting, but sometimes I'll just be spending the whole day eating, you know what I mean? And again, I have a sweet tooth, um, you know, but again, like, you know, our tools are amazing with, you know, water cleanses and food cleanses and, you know, and now I know how to manage. It's not about that. There's no one, anything fits anything. It's really like, okay, what's, you know, what is it that you know, what's for me? What's for me?
Yeah, that's powerful, sister.
Yeah.
And being with us being all conscious eaters, although like we touched on, even though we may be vegans, vegetarians, you can overeat on that too.
Yep.
Definitely overeat on that as well. And I'm gonna go ahead.
Been there.
Yeah, I know we've all been there because we know
there.
that vegan food can be good. Like people think that, oh, vegans and oh, I can't. And
Oh,
I'm telling you, it's some good vegan and vegetarian food that can outnumber, that will take the meat run for a big run. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll circle back and I'll go ahead and let somebody else have the floor.
Wow, sister. Well, I just wanted to comment on what Sister Weed be saying. Like, wow, I didn't know that. Like, your story is so amazing. Like, you say you died 3 times.
Oh, for the sleep apnea? Oh yeah. Probably more than that, since like that was my night of testing, But like they do when they do the brain waves, and you go into REM sleep. And so the brain readings go. But for me, you know what I actually think? I actually think that we go into different worlds, and that's what
Yeah.
I looked at it. I was like, wait a minute. Let's look at this from an esoteric point.
Right.
Like, they may think I've died, but in actuality, I've just left the plane. You know what I mean? So,
That's what dreaming is.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and I definitely relate to your story so much, sister.
Yeah, we've talked a lot of.
We've talked about it. Like, it's so funny, just in passing conversation, because our lives are actually so parallel for those of you that don't know. But I also had, the gastric bypass surgery, and I had mine in like 2006. And, that just came with like years of allowing, somebody to torture me over my weight. And I just wanted to like get rid of it, just to like not have to deal with that energy anymore. When you say like it's a head thing, like it's a mind thing, that's exactly it. It's like it really didn't solve the things that I wanted it to solve. I mean, for me personally, it did on some level, but it's like I didn't have brain surgery. I wasn't dealing with the traumas that were the root of everything that was happening and I was experiencing. It's just like all of a sudden I don't have a stomach and I don't know what to do with my desire, like my deep gnawing, because that's really what it truly felt like, this gnawing desire of absolutely needing to have something. And then, when we talk about addiction, like that's when you come into that space that you're like, holy, what the hell? Like this is addiction. This is me being addicted to needing to have that and consume that, because that's my ticket to managing whatever it is that I'm not really understanding how to manage. So I definitely relate to that story so much, sister. It's been real for sure. Wholeness.
Wow, Sister Veronica. Wow.
It's funny that Veronica and I, we still have stories of like, having to deal with weight loss surgery, because it doesn't solve the issue.
It just didn't.
And if anything, I think sometimes the weight loss surgery really amplifies all of your emotional.
100%, because then that's what you're left with. Like you're left with it.
I mean, I lost 100 pounds. I look great. Everybody compliments you. And that's the thing too, by the way, when you lose weight, everybody compliments you.
Oh yeah.
And
you get addicted to that too.
Yeah. And my mother was like ecstatic. Like, I finally could wear clothes with her. Where now she's not anymore, because she's like wearing my clothes. But it was like, you get so much compliments because of now you look normal. Like I'm not like 300 pounds anymore. I could fit.
But what's normal, sister?
Well, you get what I'm saying.
Normalcy.
It's so extreme.
I apologize for that, because the words. I have to be mindful. So in terms of like, it's so funny, like in the in the African or whatever culture, I'm Haitian. there's this whole, everybody's thick, right? However, you're a little bit thicker. They're always like, that's the first comment about, you need to lose weight so it's like, it was always a thing. So when you lost weight, I think everybody just assumed that, hey, you must be happy and great. And I don't know, when I first lost weight, I was way happier when I was like fat.
Mhm.
Because there was a point when I was quote unquote fat that I used to have fun, and didn't care, like, and then there's a point then you start to get weighed down by the weight, and then it becomes unhealthy. So that's why I say, like, it doesn't solve a lot of the stuff. If anything, like when you have the weight loss surgery, you you know you show some of the problems. So one of the things, like even my experiences with cleansing, like, let's say, let's take on the water cleanse. I recommend a water cleanse. I mean, that's my first recommendation to anybody, like, water cleanse. Besides saying cleanse, so I'm like,
Same. Yeah.
I mean, the 3-day water cleanse to me is like amazing, However, when I did the water cleanse, or whenever I do a water cleanse, there's a point in the water cleanse that it becomes really like your mind as well. That's when you start to see like the reality, because here you are, I don't have to eat, like, I mean, I've done it so many times now. I can do a water cleanse like this. However, there comes a point when whatever it is you need to shed that needs to go is going, and then drama.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it happens at
So true.
every point, right, in the cleanse. But there's something with the water cleanse that just clears and cleans it
It
up.
clears the mental fog.
Yeah.
It clears the mental fog. And it's like right when you're supposed to get the download that you're supposed to get, you're right. The drama comes. But see, that's what I'm wondering is, at that point, are you supposed to extend the water fast? Like, is that a test from the universe? Really? Because it's like, okay, the drama, then you shut down, and then you go off the fast, and then you didn't get the downloads that you were supposed to get. So at that point, are you supposed to extend it?
I'm counting days, and you're like, extend
it. The drama came for a reason. That was a test. Like, let's see if you're ready for this download.
Yeah, because that's the thing with cleansing, right? Because there comes a point that you hit the drama, and the blow up with my mom, with my ex-husband, with my son, and like my cousin, like they usually happen around the cleanse time. Mm-hmm. And or even with a stranger, business-wise, whatever. And so I usually, now I come to expect it, but at the same time, like, but the water is it's the mental part that's just like, okay, you're clearing a lot of stuff. So, and yeah, they all like this for me. And, like I said, I've been able to do several of water cleanse, and I know I'm physically strong enough to do it. But again, the mental and emotional part always seem to surprise me, because it hits on different, aspects of it, so.
I think me and Crystal have a parallel story. We both have talked about the body image issue, and then we talked about being, because I'm not really petite, but I'm kind of short, and that makes you look stubbier. And I'm gonna let Crystal tell her story before I get too deep.
She's a cutie potato. I said she's a cutie potato.
Yeah.
Honest ladies, thanks Nicole for putting me on the spot. Gosh, I'm just like, I was quiet and nicely listening to the stories. Gosh, it's like, where do I start? First of all, it's still an internal journey, like Veronica said. I'm still working through a lot of things. I believe, like all of you ladies, molestation comes into into it, abandonment issues, trying to control things, all those things that you know, honestly, Nicole, until you said that in the chat the other day, or I think it was Paige, I totally forgot about that. It just, because I felt like I had dealt with that, you know, as a kid, but that very well could have been a part of my eating issues. I just remember as a teenager and a preteen, I remember sitting, and mind you, I was an only child and raised by a single mother. And I could remember sitting on the edge of my bed with a gallon of milk and a box of cereal and just going in all, like I could literally eat the whole thing in one day. And I remember my mom was, one time she told me, she was like, girl, I've never seen anybody who could eat a pound of bacon. As I think, not even middle school. I think I was elementary, maybe it was middle school, but I remember I could eat like a whole Big Mac meal and in one sitting, and for like a small child, a small girl to be able to have that type of appetite. And I was tiny. That was another thing. I was very tiny. I've always been tiny, never been, well, later on in life I did get bigger, but I've always been a small person. And having those eating issues and being small, people wouldn't, I guess they didn't think that I had an issue or whatever, because I was always small. But like I said, me being a small person and being able to eat a Big Mac meal by myself and not and still be hungry, or not even hungry, still want more, that was the issue, So, and again, like I said, I'm still dealing with that. But I will say, fast forward to when I was bigger, that's when they say in my church, my old church, they would say that's when your sin was visible. My sin of eating was visible because you could see it on my physical body. Along with, like Tony said, my joints ached. I was out of breath. I mean, just a whole plethora, just a whole bunch of stuff that I was going through that I never had to deal with. But again, those issues of, abandonment, trying to control things, all manifested in my weight, and again, I still deal with it to this day, And again, which we, like you said, everything was a head hunger. It's a total head hunger, But yeah, that's again, and like I said, I'm dealing with that today with eating stuff that I'm not supposed to eat. But again, Veronica, and see, this is the thing for me. It's always, trying to find that balance, because I don't want to condemn myself for enjoying food, but then I don't want to give myself a golden pass just to eat whatever you want to eat, however
right.
Right.
We don't want to be complacent either.
Right.
So
right.
It is finding the balance always.
Yeah. So, I'm doing that, and I'm trying to also, it's also how you think about food, like the topic is, what is it that you're feeding? It's like, why am I eating this? Why am I, stuffing my face when I know that I'm full? One thing is because I like the way it tastes, you know what I'm saying? And then also I can control that, that's something that I can control. And so, yeah, I'm going to stop talking because I can go on forever about just this topic. So, yeah.
Thank you, sister. Wholeness, beautiful.
That was beautiful.
I guess.
Paige.
I guess I can go now. I have a really, really interesting relationship with food. I'll start with that first. I had a pretty interesting childhood, filled with a lot of interesting events. It was a interesting balance. It was full of pain, but full of joy too. And one thing that I remember is you know, that's always even stuck with me now is that my mom was not a cooker. You know, she was a criminal paralegal, so she would work long days, and it was TV dinners, it was canned food, it was Lunchables, it was all kinds of box foods and hamburger helper and all that good stuff. So it was that when she did cook at home, and then when we wouldn't eat at home, it was always McDonald's, Burger King, all that stuff. So we primarily ate out because she didn't have time to cook, and when she did cook, stuff out the box. Like, I ain't got the time to look, you know. And sometimes she did cook, you know, meals that, you know, that had salads and stuff like that, but it wasn't like a part of like how I eat now, you know. and so I guess, you know, that carried out as I got older. When I was in the 10th grade, I had visited vegetarianism. I said, I want to, you know, check this out. And so my mom was curious about it too and checked it out with me. And I hung in there for 6 months as a vegetarian. And then when she stopped trying to cook my meals, I stopped too. So that was it. That was over. That was over real quick. So, like, I'm not a vegetarian no more. So, but that was really, that made a mark on me. And when I had left for college, you know, they say you have a freshman 15. I had maybe a freshman 40, maybe. I gained so much weight. And it was my first time as an adult really being away from home, being isolated. I didn't have a lot of support. I was at a very, very hard school. And I was in Iowa. There's nothing really in Iowa. Not a lot of food restaurants either. It was, you know, it was a buffet at college. So I was like, hey, I'm omelets for lunch, dinner, breakfast. I'm eating everything, you know. And it was just a lot of things that I was dealing with, just trying to perform and then facing my pain and my trauma all at once. Just trying to figure myself out. And then when I ended up transferring schools and environments, going to the South, I was really shocked. I was like, oh, the food choices here, but I don't have a choice, right? Then I found the good, bad choices, the food that was bad for you that tasted great, you know, like Cajun shrimp, baked potatoes with bacon bits and all kinds of stuff. Easy kind of food and crawfish and just greasy stuff. And lo and behold, I guess, man, I got on the scale one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at 179. And I think that was my cut because I'm a 9'7", but I was at 179. My body would not let me go to 180. It was like, no, you need to wake up here. And cause I was 120. That was my comfortable weight. And I saw myself, I was just really chubby in the face. Although like 180 is not a large weight, but for me personally in my frame, you know, I had a chubby face. My weight was heavy for my knees. I had smaller legs. A lot of the weight was in my breast area, my stomach area. My knees was hurting. I had to wear like knee braces when I stood up for work, like those strap things you put on your knees. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not happy like this. I don't like how I look. I don't like how I feel. I don't like the food I'm eating. Something's got to change. And, you know, it was senior year. My very best friend had died from colon cancer at 22. And I didn't know a lot about the colon. I'm still studying the organs now as an adult, you know, but I didn't know nothing about the colon. And I remember him telling me, he said, yeah, you know, there's a lot of young people that are getting colon cancer. That's what my doctor said. He said, there's so many more young people that are getting the colon cancer because the stuff we eat, it just is clogged up. So that changed it for me. Not having him, I didn't have a lot of friends anyway, but not having him there and actually dying and having my family not really have great eating habits, I said, okay, I'm going to revisit the vegetarianism and the plant-based diet. And so at my school, we had, what was it called? Like, man, when we ran out of lettuce and stuff like that, we would get like the Burger King lettuce next door. I mean, I was eating that kind of stuff with cucumbers and lettuce. I said, I refuse to eat any more meat. I refuse to eat any more stuff with grease. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to put oil and vinegar on my salads. I'm drinking water. I'm not drinking any sweetened beverages anymore. And I'm getting rid of the mirror. I got rid of the mirror out of my little apartment. And for two months straight, just sticking with this regimen of getting as full as I could off the salads, I lost about 30 pounds. And that put me at 150. So I said, okay, it's something to this. I'm going to stick with it. And I made a decision after I took my family to my favorite hole in the wall restaurant with the Cajun shrimp baked potatoes. I said, that's the last meal I'm eating in the South with meat. And immediately when I came home for college, I said, I'm going to be a vegan. And I've been a vegan ever since. And so since then, from 150, I made it as low as 104 pounds. And that was hard for me to get to 104 pounds because every organ in me was hurting. I detoxed too much. And I got myself back up to a comfortable weight, which is around 115, 120. So I feel really good. And but the battle of eating too much is still with me. People think that since I'm small, that, hey, I'm healthy, I'm this, that, and a third. I overeat sometimes, a lot. And yeah, I do cleanses and stuff like that, but it's an issue for me. Like, why am I eating? I know I'm not supposed to be eating. I'm not even hungry. Like, who am I feeding? I have to ask myself, like, who am I feeding? You know, like, and so it's still a battle just as a woman, just trying to sever ties with this uncomfortable relationship that I may have with food, and really eat with intention. Like, you ate, you're full, that's it, you know, and just trying to be balanced with that. So yeah, that's my story.
And you know, it's, Paige, when you said eat with intention, and also being present while you're eating, because you eat and the food is so good. And keep in mind, we're dealing with the MSG, that is a drug that makes us crave the food depending on where you're getting the food from. Even I found out that even some vegetarian, vegan restaurants, they put MSG in their food. So that is opening up your taste buds to make that food seem extra savory, but it's really not. It's the MSG drug. So, but yeah, being present while you're eating, and not just gulping it up and like realizing that, oh man, I just ate that whole plate of vegan tuna. And even though it's vegan, you still ate it all. So yeah.
And that's one thing I also wanted to address too, is like the emotional eating. One issue that I had, and the dependency. One issue that I had was I would smoke all the time. And my excuse for doing that was that, well, I'm not on any other medications, whatever, it could be totally worse. And so I would smoke all the time. And then when it was time for me to stop, I went to food, overdoing it with the food because I didn't have the marijuana. So like, now I got the food. And then when something's going on, or I'm angry or something, I'll find myself ranting and yelling and chewing on something like, oh, I'm so, you know, so upset about that, and not realizing that I'm feeding the anger. Like, I'm feeding that force too. And so, yeah, the emotional eating is a big piece. You know, the emotional eating is like, why are you eating? You know, if you're angry, go to nature, ground yourself, you know.
Nature.
That's what I think about.
Nature, and like Tony said, crystals and sun gazing.
Sun
I'm
gazing.
talking about all the stuff that I need to do, but that it's when you sun gaze, it takes away the hunger. It takes it away because you're getting fed energy from the sun. The sun is giving you food. It's feeding you. So
that's true soul food.
that's true soul food.
And I just want to say that, you know, along with Paige, you know, we were talking about the addictions. I had all the addictions. I just want to let you guys know that I had like the food addiction, the sex addiction, the drug addiction. I had all the addiction that, you know, so.
We're all addicts. We are all addicts. There's not one being on this earth that escapes addiction. We are all addicts.
Look, I'm working on the farmer addicts.
Yeah, I'm working on it too. I'm working on it too.
It's just
the first addiction is breathing.
thank you. I'm addicted to existence. So, you know,
By the way, I wanted to make a comment. So I've met Paige, and like she's just a little bitty thing. Like I've hugged Paige. You know what I mean?
I know. Love you so much, sister.
I know. So it's like really. I mean, it's always weird to hear. You know, everybody loves hugging me because I'm so like, you know, mushy. But it's like, you know, when Paige is like, oh, like tiny as well. So it's weird that she's trying to say that she was 180 pounds. I'm like, really? Where?
No, that's what I'm like, what? I can't imagine.
Oh, yeah. I was 180 pounds and still one of the smallest members in the family.
Well, see, like that's what I mean. You're really tiny because you're 180 pounds is my normal size.
Yeah, and you know, some people that's just such a healthy weight. It's such a healthy weight. 180, there's nothing wrong with that. But for my frame in particular, it gave all sorts of problems, you know. And that's what also didn't make me feel good because I was like, 180 is nothing. But for me,
and that's also the thing as well, like about the fact that your frame, like understanding like how your body is. So sometimes we always want to be like way skinnier than our body's comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, the mental game.
The tribe.
Yeah.
That's the tribe you come from. And what I mean by tribe, like what's your ancestral makeup?
Yeah.
Mine, everybody's thick in my family, both sides. So I'm just a thickster. Like even my lowest size was a size 8, and my legs were still thicker than thick. So I wanted to address that whole body type, that even the conscious community projects like it. I'm telling you, it turns the people that may have the larger body frames away because they think they're supposed to be the skinny petite because everybody is namaste and I'm skinny now.
But that's BS. Completely.
But that's not
absolutely.
We've been fed that image to believe. We've been fed that.
We have been fed that. And that is not accurate. It's like, it's the same. It's all one big melting body type. It's a big body type melting pot in the conscious community. But because everybody is so skinny and doing the yoga, and even like when it comes to yoga, I try yoga. It's certain poses I can't hit because mama got thick legs. You know, but where's the modification? You know, so it's like, I think that's, I think that's something that should be addressed in the whole conscious community because it's like
we're addressing it right now. That's why we're doing this. We're addressing it right now.
Absolutely. No, and this is great because for me, that was like my huge, I do Tai Chi. I love Qigong. And that was like my biggest blockage because you do see all the skinny people or the monks doing it. And you're like, oh, that's not me. So in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to try this because it's not me. And
the same pressure you get in the world.
Yes. And then when I started doing it, I'm like, oh no, this is me. This is like absolutely me. And so, so that blockage had to, really leave my mind. I love actually, I think one of my members today sent a video, like, and there was this African American lady, not skinny, doing the yoga. She was doing a salutation to the moon, and I loved it because I was like, her body shape was squared. It wasn't her about being skinny or fat. It was like her body shape was like the weirdest body shape I saw. And I like that. And I was like, because it's really about connecting. And that's what Tai Chi and Qigong is. It's really about connecting with the energy. And so that when you're doing it, you just feel it. And it's not about it's not even about the body itself, the physical body, because you're in the energy. And that's, and that's what it is. It's like with everything else. So we just want to make sure, like, yes, we've had these physical experiences. I mean, as you can see, like, to me, I think that actually my weight journey was my spiritual journey. That was the physical part, like when I teach, like, about the mother, the physical, she's physical. So everything, what that experience, the fact that I was heavy. But I always tell people, the stuff that my heavy fat self handled, I don't know if the skinny me could have handled, because
That's right.
I always say this because she was a strong woman. I mean, I went through so many surgeries and dealt with so many things in my life, and I needed to be that type of person that was solidly grounded in this physical reality. And that's one of the things that happens with food. Food grounds you. So we don't necessarily have to look at every the journey as a negative. That part of it is hard, but I can tell you most of the food thing was enjoyable. I mean, we had a lot of parties when I was in my 20s and teenager and young. We had a lot of barbecues. It was always family. It was always a party celebrating. I mean, in the summertime, we would have a barbecue every weekend. And, everybody cooked. My dad was a chef, so he cooked a lot of food, and the food was delicious. I mean, when he died a few months ago, I said, I had to say, hey, we have to take a moment for my dad's food. Because imagine, like, this man was, like, really a great cook, and we're gonna miss that. And so all of my food experience, for as much as some of it, I put on the weight because I enjoyed it. It wasn't, yes, it was pizza, because I remember they had the Chinese food near my house was one of the best Chinese food ever. Like I said, I had Chinese food in Brooklyn, so they had all the Chinese people, so pork fried rice and chicken wings was like the thing, And then of course Domino's and we do celebrate and honor McDonald's and Burger King and the Chinese food next door, and I mean, when I was a teenager, McDonald's was 2 for $2. What was it? Two Big Macs for $2.
Yep, 2 Mac chickens. Yep.
Yeah.
How about you?
I do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yes, later years, the journey was to go vegan so I could go lighter and go into the spirit world. But at the same time, I understood that physical journey was that, and it needed to happen because, again, some of my experiences led me here. So I can't, if I didn't have them, I don't know if I would be here,
That's a good point. That's a good point, sister. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I have to say that being on the diet pills, which was the phentermine, that was the popular one, that did take me on some spiritual journeys because I wasn't eating. So my mind opened up at that time. So that's a good point. Although that was an unhealthy way to do it, I think it definitely helped me on my spiritual journey because some of the experiences that I had, I would swear I was on psychedelics. Because I was just that open.
Probably was.
Right. Yeah, the natural psychedelic was released or something because I'm telling you, so much stuff broke through that I was like, okay, I'm not.
Yeah. These are things that we're not recommending, but these are just things like
absolutely
just want to be clear. We're not recommending that these are the processes. You can all attain all of these all of these, you know, interdimensional travels to these things, but we could do it a different way. I too have
Very unhealthy.
very similar experiences, you know, using methamphetamines, wouldn't sleep or eat for 10 days at a time, and you can only imagine, you know, but it did connect me because, again, it's like the source of all creation. It doesn't discriminate. It's just an experience to your soul. It's not judging it, you know what I mean? So there's many different doorways to this, and again, you know, just these aren't ways, this isn't what we recommend, but certainly it's there and it exists, and this has been our collective experience.
Yes.
And it's all beautiful.
And I can, you know, Nicole, I can totally relate to what you're saying, because when I first started out, and I just started wearing this amethyst that I got. It was the very first crystal that I ever received.
Yeah, look at you. Yes,
it was the very first amethyst. Yes, it was the very first amethyst that I ever got. And during that time that I did the plant-based journey, I started in the spring semester of college, and it wasn't that many months, but it definitely jump-started my spirituality so rapidly just by me switching my diet and the content I was listening to and the things I was consuming, because although the food changed, it was what I was listening to, but I was
taking it to your eyes and your ears, and
yeah, everything was just changing, even the mentality, like even with my business and stuff like that, like in college, like everything was just natural, everything was just really great. And then my dreams were unbelievable.
Wow.
I mean, it was like a plant medicine journey. I would have dreams that I'm dying, and you know, and learning how to accept death and all kinds of stuff, literally just by having crystals around me now, because I'm plant-based now. So I'm learning more about these things now. Like, it was interesting because the diet was the gateway into, you know, the spiritual journey for me too, for sure.
Wow.
oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
This has been awesome.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
So, ending and closing, these are our journeys. I mean, these are the journeys that we've had with what are we feeding, and these are the things that we've come to. That's, you know, the enlightenment that we got to start turning away from. Now, like we said, I know I still have some habits that I have to change, you know, but it's a journey. It's a part of the journey. It is definitely a part of the journey. So, and that's learning. You starting to know thyself. It's all a part of knowing thyself and recognizing the fact that we've had some of these addictions, and, you know, learning the ways to heal these addictions, or, you know, by whether it be meditation, yoga, tai chi, energy work,
Breath work,
fasting, breath work, absolutely, crystals, sun gazing. All of these are some of the things that have helped us all, and some other people that we know. So this has been beautiful, guys.
yes, thank you so much, just for everybody's willingness to share the experience, which we're very much still in, and we're all still growing and learning together. And I'm just so honored to just be under the same stars with all of these. Thank you so much, sisters.
Your wholeness, ladies. Thank you.
Wholeness. Love y'all.
Wholeness, ladies.
Guys so much.
Much love, y'all.
Much love.
Hi, ladies.
See you on the next one.